Mm.
And I asked him a question. I said, here is when you get there, here's a good thesis for you to go and research. Could we potentially get to we talk about two-factor authentication, which I hate, and I think most people do hate. Could we get to a zero factor authentication? Now that sounds impossible, right? Because on some level, you still have to authenticate who you are. But even if we got to a point where my presence identified that I was authorized to use something, right? My aura beyond my fingerprint, right?
Right.
We talk about retina scans and voice scans and fingerprints and things like that. But is there a way that we can figure out how to identify ourselves? And if you had something embedded in you, like in my hands, and it was more or less a Bluetooth, then there might be a layer of authentication, but not one that I necessarily have to engage in. And I think that becomes really interesting.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for those olfactory AIs to come in where they can identify things by smell. I mean, dogs can tell if it's there like human or it's not there human, and if they know you or they don't know you because of the smell. So I feel like a lot of this olfactory tech, I don't know where it is. I actually haven't researched. I don't know if there is any and if they're doing any kind of experimentation. But I would think that that would be a good identifier. Animals use it; they love it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a product out there right now in the video game space, and it's gotten a lot of publicity lately, where you can inject a smell into your video game. So if you're walking down an alley with some rotten flesh from the zombies, you could smell it. So there are playing with some of those multi-sensory types of applications. I've talked about this in a VR setting a lot, which is VR. For all of its kind of interest, hasn't reached mainstream yet. But if you can think about a VR system where not only do I feel like I'm visually, I feel like I'm present, like on a beach, but now what if I'm smelling like coconuts behind me, or pina coladas in the sand and the ocean. And if I can smell along with visually, that immersion becomes a lot more interesting, I think, to people. But yeah, I think we're still a little ways away from getting that smell type of sensory thing down, despite it being around for, again, decades.